Welcome to the Linux Distro channel, and this is a quick look at Linux Mint. This is version 17.1, and it is the Cinnamon interface. Why do I say Cinnamon interface? Because Linux Mint comes in many different interfaces. So this is the Cinnamon interface. What is Linux Mint? Well, Linux Mint is actually a spin-off of Ubuntu. For those of you that have tried or seen Ubuntu, if you haven't, you can look at the videos on the channel. This came off of Ubuntu, but created its own path. For a long time, it was pretty parallel, and then it became more and more different, even though it still shares the same platform and same base, Linux base as Ubuntu. This Linux Mint is different in many ways, and we're going to take a peek at the interface itself. So Linux Mint, of course, being a Linux distribution, you have to get it on the website of Linux Mint. If you Google it, you will have the access to the disk image, and from the disk image you can actually just install the Linux version that you feel that you want. Of course, I've used the USB installer from Pendrive Linux to actually create a bootable USB thumb drive to install Linux Mint. Install was quite easy to do. It's pretty simple, as simple I would say as Ubuntu, which is quite easy even for somebody that's not very technically inclined. It shares common in different functions. If we look at, for example, the interface itself, first of all, Linux Mint has a little taskbar at the bottom. So it resembles Windows. If we want to compare with something, it's actually a really looking like Windows and works like Windows in its taskbar at the bottom with the icons on the right, and also on the left side with other quick access icons also, which is quite interesting. You also have the menu at the left that brings up the different applications, and it's more, once again, as like a Windows-like experience. So I think Linux Mint, for somebody that's new to Linux, never used Linux before, is maybe a little simpler to use than Ubuntu. Although Ubuntu is still quite simple in its way of doing things. You can add things through the software manager, which is basically kind of an app store in Linux Mint. So if we look at that little store here, we see that it will pop up in a few seconds. It has a little more choices, I would say, probably than Ubuntu. As you see here, each category is there. It has the number of packages or software that you can find there. So every time you click, for example, on a package, let's say Internet, it will open up all the different packages and categories and things that you will have from the Internet. And to have something, you'll only click on it, and once you double click on it, you'll have the install pop up. So it says not installed. You have the install button on the right. You've got reviews and scores. So I'd say for a app store, or for really a store to get these games or apps or programs, it's actually nice and interesting. Now notice that the menus of the different windows that we open have, again, like a Windows look with file, edit, view, and so on. And on the upper right, you got the little X, you got the plus and minus, minus to minimize, plus to maximize to full screen, and the X to just close a window. It's very drab and grayish style. It looks more like a older Windows, some Windows 95, 98, I would say 95 or 98 in its look, but with just a little edge to show that it's a little more modern, but you know, still very, very Windows-like. Of course, you've got the regular icons with computer, which brings you to the file system in your different structure of the documents, music, pictures, and so on. And works very well. It's very stable. One of the very nice features actually of Linux Mint is the fact that it's fast. And I would say that I've used Ubuntu a lot, and it does feel much faster and crisper in using Linux Mint than it does Ubuntu. Uh, but it's a little long in loading, but Ubuntu is also a little long in loading. But once it's in memory, once it's really loaded, Linux Mint is very fast, and everything is actually faster. As most Linux distros, the default browser is Firefox, but of course you can get other browsers like Opera or Chromium. And it has its own start page of linuxmint.com with the Google search in the middle. The default search on the upper right corner is Yahoo. So if you are searching through the search in the Firefox here, you will have a Yahoo search. But thanks to Linux Mint, you also have a Google search in the middle here. Now, the programs that come with Linux Mint are really interesting. It comes with a variety of different software for whatever you want to do. It comes with the LibreOffice suite, like in Ubuntu, which is a equivalent to Microsoft Office. So if you're looking for the equivalent, you have Writer for the equivalent of Word. Calc is the equivalent of Excel. Impress, equivalent of PowerPoint. And you've got Drawing, which is a nice drawing program. Base Database is Access equivalent. And Math Formula, which are the different formulas that you might be using. There are full of templates, and it is pretty much compatible with the real Microsoft Office. So if you are using Linux Mint and LibreOffice for working documents, for example, should work pretty well. Though always remember that a equivalent is not 100%. So it means that there are some things that will not be totally compatible, if especially you have very complex Word documents with lots of styling, lots of menus and stuff, or in Excel really complex tables. There might be some things that will show up strangely, but it's still going to work, and you can still exchange document, write a document, save it in a doc format or XLS format, and so on. You also have in here different software, for example, for GIMP as the image editor, which really is a very powerful image editor for that it's equivalent to Photoshop if you want. For internet, you've got Firefox, and for email, if you need an email client, comes with Thunderbird Mail, which is a good client, of course. It comes pretty much with everything you need to watch your DVDs and watch online videos. Like all Linux distros, there are some things missing sometimes, so you might go on the web and it might say that it's missing some feature that will need to be added to view this or this type of video format, but in general it works very, very well. It's very stable. It's not crashed. Ubuntu at all didn't crash also, so this is on a Toshiba Core i3 machine and works very well. One of the nice things about Linux Mint for users that have older computers, because it is small and so fast, it's actually a good choice if you've got an old computer lying around and you don't know what to do with it, might want to have something else, especially an old Windows XP machine, for example, could be an interesting change. Windows XP being out of service, if you say, maybe you'd like to have something that's more modern, but that's still going to run on an older machine. Well, I think you can try Linux Mint on these older machines. It's surprising how fast it can run. It had a lot of updates at start compared to Ubuntu that updates pretty much itself as it's installing. Linux Mint seemed to install itself and then ask for updates, which might be a little annoying because there were a lot of updates before I could really use it. But after that's done, it works really fine. The install itself went well. All of the hardware in my machine was found, so it works perfectly. It found every detail. One of the problems with Linux distros, of course, is that finding drivers for some machines, and some of the machines that are probably the most difficult to get these drivers are Dell computers, for example. But whatever computer you have, there might be a missing driver, and the best way to find that is to go on the web and try to Google the type of driver or the type of hardware that you're using and see if there's something that can be done on Linux. Because Linux Mint is also very close to Ubuntu, a lot of what applies to Ubuntu also applies to Linux Mint, which is cool. For example, the recording software that I'm using, which is Simple Screen Recorder, I use the exact same method through the terminal to install it on Linux Mint, and it worked perfectly. So you see that it shares the same basic functions, so it works pretty much in the same way. So if you want to learn more on Linux Mint, well, look at our videos. We'll be showing you different things on how to connect to the internet, to all the preferences and all the innards of Linux Mint, and show you how it works. And by looking at the videos on our channel, you'll be able to find maybe your preferred Linux distro, and you'll be making a wise choice instead of having to install and look at all the distributions out there. If you enjoy our videos, why not subscribe to our channel? You'll be informed when new videos are online. If you have any comments or questions about this distro, about maybe this distro compared to another one, let us know, and we will try to answer the question as best as we can. And take a look at our videos. If you're interested in Linux, we'll have videos of different versions of Linux, which is going to be quite interesting. So thanks for watching, and hope to see you again. Bye-bye.